Hello, and today we are going to review another locomotive. It's a more modern one, and again a bit more high-end one. It's Roco Class 112 or E10 class locomotive. It's electric locomotive, passenger electric locomotive, but first let's find out this vehicle history.
Class 112 or E10 is standard electric locomotive for express train traffic for Deutsche Bahn. Maximum speed of this locomotive was 160 km per hour, later reduced to 120 km per hour. At the end of 40s and the beginning of 1950s, on Western German railways there were two main models of electric engines, E94 for freight service and E44 for passenger service. E44 fleet was aging and new for Excel locomotive was needed, so a new project named E46 has started. By 1950, first test locomotives were provided. First prototypes were slightly different compared to later locomotives. In 1952, locomotive was renamed to E10 as part of standard electric locomotive program. E10 was classified as express passenger train electric locomotive with top speed of 140 km per hour. Based on E10 design, also E40 freight locomotive was designed, and as well E41 for local passenger service. Initially, E10 locomotives got cobalt blue livery, indicating that they can travel at speeds of 140 km per hour. Starting from locomotive number 288, a more aerodynamic body design was introduced, so later series locomotives has more slanted body design. In 1968, locomotives was again renamed to Class 110. Some of E10 locomotives were equipped with high-speed handshell bodies, and their maximum speed was 160 km per hour. This model was named as E10.12. Later, these locomotives were renamed to Class 112. In 1970s, locomotives were repainted again. Class 112 and some of Class 110 locomotives got a red beige livery, while other locomotives got ocean blue ivory color scheme. Finally, in 1997, new standard traffic red Deutsche Bahn color scheme was applied, which remained till the remaining locomotives were withdrawn from service. New bodies for Class 112 were less reliable and later due wear and tear. In 1988, some Class 112 locomotives with worn-out bodies were named to Class 114, and their maximum speed was limited to 120 km per hour. Class 114 locomotives were withdrawn in 1995. Part of Class 112 locomotives in Munich area were modified for local S-Bahn service in 1991 and were named to Class 113. Finally, in 2005, all surviving Class 110, 112, and 113 units were yet again renamed to Class 115, which was in regular service till 2014. So basically E46, E10, Class 110, Class 112, Class 113, Class 114, and Class 115 is the same locomotive. In model world, E10 loco is one of the most popular models, but I'd like to focus on early Pico model, made from carbolite in 1950. The train was called E46, and a lot of people consider it as fictional train. But if you look close enough and recall original E10 name, you'd understand that it's E10 prototype model. Considering that peak is from Eastern Germany, it's quite interesting that they were paying attention to novelties from Western Germany. Now back to our model.
Okay, back to our locomotive. Again, this was made by Roco in 1980s, and by that time it's actually really decent locomotive. Paint job is really crisp. Also, labels are tiny and nicely done. Some of them are really small, which is impressive. Also, you can see that locomotive number is class 112, which means it's E10 class locomotive with high-speed handshell bodies, and locomotive number is 504. Also from here you can see nicely detailed grills. Cab door has a glass. Handrails here are not separately fitted, and also you can see quite nicely done steps. Locomotive has a really nicely detailed bodies. Really small details are molded here. Also you can observe locomotive suspension, central part with resistors, and also front part. By the way, this number indicates locomotive traveling direction, so default traveling direction is to that side. This locomotive is mostly symmetrical, so from the other side it looks absolutely the same, except for the resistor box here. Yeah, you also can observe numbers, meaning default direction, which shows now here on that side. And yeah, all labels are crisp, and paint job is actually awesome. Now to the front part of locomotive. As you can see, a locomotive has slanted body design, indicating that it's from a later series of locomotives. Also, unfortunately, there is a small paint defect here, so paint is quite a bit bleeding. What else? There is a additional handrail, and it's separately fitted, so it's separate detail. Also at front you can see again locomotive number. There are buffers made from plastic, Pico coupler, standard Pico coupler, which is also sprung fitted and working nicely. You can see headlights as well as backlights. So locomotive has directional lighting, which is awesome. Also nice small detail indicating that these locomotives could work in a multiple unit system. What else? Cab has a fitted glass. Glass has wipers, and also inside you can see a cab. Inside the cab you can see a train driver, even a train driver. Yes, you can barely see it, but also locomotive has a detailed cab inside the locomotive, so pretty impressive from the front side. From the roof perspective, yeah, roof is also quite impressive. Here a lot of small and interesting details, vents, roof equipment. Also there is interesting screw located here. Using a screwdriver you can turn it and switch between overhead wire power pickup or wheel power pickup. So yeah, these pantographs are actually not just decoration, but they can pick up power and work as a real pantographs, which is quite impressive. Yeah, pantographs are made from metal, and both of them could be raised. Unfortunately, it's quite difficult to put it back in position using only one hand. Yeah, second pantograph also could be risen. There is a metal wire connecting both pantographs, and this wire also feeds a locomotive engine located inside. From the bottom, we can see that this is 4-axle locomotive, This locomotive has 2 traction tires, 1 per each body. Locomotive has all-wheel drive and all-wheel pickup, which is again by 80s is quite impressive. In central part you can see a compressor, some resistor boxes, and behind this central plate you can see a locomotive frame could be seen. I assume it's made from zinc alloy. So the locomotive weighs 320 grams. Now let's move on to the testing stage. Now to the testing. Let's feed this locomotive some juice. So it starts from about 3.5 volts. Let's give him 9 volts. Current draw is 0.35 amps and 3 watts. You can see the direction lighting is working, but it's quite dim. Let's give him 12 volts. Now to the 12 volts. Current draw haven't grown at all, and it consumes now 4 watts of energy. Direction lighting is still very dim. Maybe I should turn off the lights. Yeah, it's seen way better now. So let's measure locomotive top speed. So it takes about 8 seconds to complete the lap. Now let's calculate locomotive speed. So according to my calculations, it's 155 kilometers per hour. Actually very prototypical, as original loco could ride 160 kilometers, but its maximum speed was limited to 140 kilometers per hour. Now let's test cooling capacity. Okay, I've made this 5 cars passenger consist. It's quite a lot, as it's way harder to pull passenger cars. So let's give this loco 9 volts. It starts no problem, and it's derailed. Okay, we are back. Let's try again. Yeah, curves are really tight for this consist, but you clearly can see that locomotive is pulling these cars, no problems at all. Okay, one more attempt. I'm afraid these curves are way too tight for these passenger cars. Let's give him 6 volts. But again, as you can see, loco is pulling this passenger consist with no problems at all. And again, it's less than 6 volts. So amazing pulling capacity. Inside the shell you can see a massive weight, a switcher to switch between overhead wires and wheels pickup, directional lighting which is made by these lamps, a very primitive circuit board, and also a drivetrain, which is made by Spring. It's made by Spring. So yeah, early Roco had a really interesting transmission. Inside the body shell, you can definitely see wires. It's definitely could take overhead wires power. You can see wiring inside to transfer power from overhead wires to motor, and also very interesting system to make a direction lighting. So you have just two light bulbs, and these light bulbs transfer all the lighting using this strange plasticky thingy. That explains really dim light for this locomotive. Now let's put our shell back. So what can I say about this engine? It's a really beautiful, reliable, and very smooth runner. I just adore Roco, and especially vintage Roco. I have nothing to add. You saw it yourself. Amazing pulling capacity, amazing performance, and amazing reliability. What else can you wish for? Maybe a bit more details, but in my opinion, it's almost awesome and perfect locomotive.